What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 4 of Bearded Discussion Podcast. Today with me I have my friend Adam.
Hello.
How you doing? How
Good.
you doing, man? The topic of today's podcast is influenced by a question that I had from my friend quite a while ago. And the question was, do you think when you get older, you'll still play video games? And sort of as I thought about it and did more research into the topic and found quite sort of interesting information and articles about it. And I wanted to talk about video games and being a grown man and playing video games. And sort of my first question for you, Adam, is do you think that video games are only for kids and teenagers as it is viewed in society usually? Like the view is that it's mainly for kids and teenagers, and grown men shouldn't really play it. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with it. I think obviously kids do play it, and there's a lot of kids who do play video games and stuff. But it's what you do with it. Like I we were talking about this before. Like, you know, video games are seen as juvenile by a lot of people. You know, whether it's older generations or sometimes some women think that. But I think I don't know. I think if you truly appreciate video games and you know there's a lot more, and they're not just it's the same argument with animation. Like if you say animation, like my dad will be like, "What do you mean? You mean CGI?" I'm like, "No, animation." He goes, "Oh, cartoons." I'm like, "It's not cartoons, it's animation." Like it's the same. You know, people who don't play them don't appreciate that they're a valid medium. You know.
Yeah, and it's also like I think video games as a whole sort of went through such a journey from the sort of the crude versions of it, or raw versions, like the simple video games that we had in the past, even when we were kids, to video games now where you have just variety across the whole spectrum. Meaning you can have video games for kids, but also for adults that tell really compelling stories.
Yeah, you take what studio developer Naughty Dog. Yeah. You know, in the 90s they were creating games like Crash Bandicoot, Jack and Daxter. Admittedly childish looking games for kids, right?
Absolutely.
You know, although you can still appreciate those games today. But now they make much more mature games. You know, they make Uncharted. They make The Last of Us, telling great stories that you can only experience through the medium of video games. You can't. It's a different connection. You can't get that through watching it on TV.
Yeah, I agree. And also, why, like, sort of circling back, why do you think the society views video games as invaluable in general? Like, in my opinion, they train a lot of your skills, such as like problem solving, cognitive thinking. They can teach you empathy. Like they can teach you different things across the whole spectrum. Yeah. Why do you think at large society views video games as just something that's invaluable, as an invaluable form of art that's only for so-called losers, for lack of a better word, which it isn't?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think there's two things. I think when we say society, it's probably best to specify that we probably mean Western society. I think if you want to go to like South Korea or Japan, or again very developed countries, but ones where they've had more appreciation, they probably wouldn't view it as childish or anything else. But I think in the West we view it as childish because we don't it's just ignorance. I think people aren't playing it, and also there's a stereotype, isn't it, when you think, like, if you think of, like, I don't know, I consider myself to be a video gamer, right? But then you go to someone who plays, I don't know, who's been playing The Witcher for 6 months, and they've built a PC, they look at me and go, "Oh, he's not a gamer, he's just a casual player." And then I'll look at somebody with a smartphone playing Candy Crush and I'm like, "Oh, they're not a gamer, they're casuals. But the reality is they're
all
gamers,
yeah.
right? They're all
just different.
No matter what spectrum you're on, you know, there's always going to be someone who's out nerded you. Like, you know, you take pride. Like, I kind of go, oh, what, you just play on your iPad? Ah, you bitch. You know, oh, I play on a PlayStation. And somebody goes, oh, you play on a PlayStation? No, I play. I play on a PC. I'm a real gamer. Yeah. Somebody goes, oh, you play on a PC? I've got a VR kit and I've built it from scratch and I've invested $5,000. You know, but everyone's a gamer at heart, and it's I don't know. I think it comes from, I don't know. I don't know if this is controversial or not. I feel like different ethnicities look down on it as well.
What do you mean?
Like I feel like I don't know, white people or white parents are more accepting of it, and I feel like, you know, like especially from you know, Greek parents or Pakistani parents, they're not talking about they're not going to be looking at video games. If you come from like, if your family comes from like a different country or a different ethnicity, they're more likely, they're a bit more traditional, and they probably view it as more
waste of time.
Yeah, waste of time. Which is funny because I mentioned this before. Like, if you say to someone, "Oh, what'd you do over the weekend?" You know, they go, "Oh, nothing. I spent all day watching TV."
Yeah.
The standard response is, "Oh, nice. I bet that was really relaxing. That's cool. That's a good weekend, right?"
Yeah.
If you speak to someone, you go, "What'd you do over the weekend?" "Oh, I did nothing but play video games." That guy's a fucking loser, man. It's like, and I don't know why. Like, I fucking love video games. But if someone said I spent the whole day playing video games, I'd be like, do something better.
But I think it's also,
I don't know why.
When you talk about the generational difference, I think it's also the fact that, like, our parents, for example, didn't grow up with it.
No.
So they aren't familiar with it.
No.
We did grow up with it, and we just sort of subconsciously or consciously just prefer it over watching TV.
Yeah.
Just because, like I said, it does feel, or in reality, it does teach you different skills.
It's unlike anything else.
Like, I cannot. There's so many different examples where whenever I had a problem to solve, like whether you're conscious of it or not, sometimes you can approach it with just a video game sort of mind, meaning like what would a character in a video game do, and that's how you solve a problem. Yeah, which sounds weird, but it is true.
It definitely problem solves. It's you know, the whole point of video games, no matter whether you're playing a stand-up shoot 'em up and you have to get down a boss, you know, there's a host of different guns. You got to use your environment. How you got to take it down? Is there a time constraint? There's all these challenge modes that you have to consider. And that even goes down to like the most basic of games. You've always, like, even Candy Crush, you have to get all these candies in a row. It's challenging your brain to think of it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
A perfect example, and it's a small one, but it's a perfect example of how it translated in the real world. I remember a couple of years ago I was going to work, and it was during rush hour, and everyone was beeping off the train. Doing the Oyster card system, and you know those little doors panels open when you contactless, you beep it. There was only 2 open, and one of those 2 were broken, right? Because it was just the green light and red light. It was just flashing, right? And a couple of people tried to press it. It wouldn't open, so everyone was queuing on this one thing. And basically, the green light meant, obviously, when it was green, it's ready to go. But when it's red, it means it's busted. Yeah. And it was just flashing green, red, and nobody could do it. And they were all queuing up. And I saw that, and it reminded me of this game, Dead Space, where the door was flashing red and green, and you had to basically just press the button when it was green, timed it, and the door would open. And I saw that, and I was like, I'm going to fucking try this. I went out the queue, walked to the front, was looking at me like, is this guy going to push in? And I took out my Oyster card, and I just timed it perfectly, where it went green, and the doors went, opened.
That's hilarious.
And I just walked through. Everyone looked at me like, how the fuck did you get through? I was like, it's a fucking game, bitch. You just got to time it. Yeah. And everyone else was like, oh, I don't know how to do that. And they were just the queue was massive, and I was like, oh, I can't got time for this. And that was like a classic thing of like, it's not broken. You just need to adapt to this.
Think about it, approach it from a different perspective or different sort of position, which is what video games teach you. Because very often it's not a sort of laid out path. This is how you get this, or this is how you get there. Yeah. You have to think outside the box, and how can I approach it in different ways? Yeah, exactly. It's like, if you can't do that, you know, it's if they were both broken, you'd hop over the fence or whatever, you know, over the gate. And video. I mean, everything under a video game is designed to be overcome. Yeah, and it's also like the example that you just said, another example could be something like I'm a huge fan of like city building games.
Yeah.
Where you just manage resources, manage money.
Yeah.
Build a city, make sure everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Like that very well translates into owning a business as well.
Mm-hmm.
And just and
Even
even as an individual, it teaches you how to manage. It can teach you how to manage your money, how to budget.
Yeah, everyday life.
How to absolutely.
Because you know any game, all right. You know, you start off. I've only got 100 gold coins to start off, and I need to buy food. I need to buy shelter. I need to worry about the weather patterns. You do the same. I've got my salary. I need to think about my bills. I'm going to pay my rent. I've got to think how much is my internet going to cost this month.
Yeah.
You've already got that built into your everyday life.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of games talk about resource management, and in most games you have to level up your character.
Yeah.
You know, and that can be seen in the real world as well. It's like, right, okay, I know if I've leveled up and I've got myself a better car because I've saved up rather than pay for, you know, zip cars everywhere or something.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also when you think about it, video games, playing them as an adult, how is it any different to any other hobby that you might have? I don't know. Choose whatever hobby you might have. How is it any different? I would say that it's quite on par, meaning that it takes time to develop. It's just as enjoyable, and it just sort of it can take your mind off of whatever stress you have in your life or whatever else is going on. And even in a relationship, like I know, especially like in this in lockdown that we have right now, I'm sure that's sort of the cause of a lot of arguments in relationships as well, especially when like guys play video games and the girl in the relationship might feel unappreciated, or because the guy would rather spend his time playing a video game. But again, in general, how is it any different to any other hobby that you might be passionate about?
Well, the thing is, like, I would never put I play video games as a hobby on a CV.
Oh yeah.
But you think why? And it's just because like you go, oh, I play violin.
But that goes again.
I play piano, but I wouldn't play video games.
Yeah, but that again goes back to how it's viewed by society.
Yeah, I don't know. I think personally, maybe, I don't know. This is me just clutching at straws a little bit, but I feel like you could say, if you played piano, right, or if you played guitar, it's a very social thing. Like if you had dinner, if you had friends around for dinner, and then you were lucky enough to own a house which have a piano in there or something, you could play a piano, you could play a tune. They'd all be there going, "Oh, that's pretty classy. That's pretty impressive." You can't go watch me murk this team in Fortnite. Oh yeah, but you don't understand. But that was pretty cool. I did it in 2 minutes. It normally takes 15 minutes or something. People don't appreciate that. So I don't know. Maybe that. And I think maybe the fact that it's in most cases, I mean, obviously excluding FIFA and the Nintendo Switch, but I think we mentioned this previously, like it's not a very sociable thing. If you're playing a video game, in most instances, if you buy a video game, it's normally a solitary experience, whereas watching a movie can be social.
We did talk about it. Before we started recording, and yeah, I do agree with it. But then, like I said, it also depends on the type of game that you might be playing. 100%. Like if you're playing a story-driven game, then most likely, it's an experience that it's focused on one person sort of playing it. But like you said, like something like a Nintendo Switch where you have like, I don't know, Mario Kart and these kind of games, it can also, for lack of a better term, bring you closer with your, whether it's a partner, your family, or just because you're able to spend time enjoying doing the same thing together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Would you say that you can be a successful adult who's responsible, who's got different sort of things going on, and still be able to play video games? Would you say that those two things go hand in hand?
Yeah, absolutely. You just watch less Netflix. That's what you need to do. If you think you haven't got enough of anything, if you just watch less, reduce your Netflix consumption, and you can find time for anything.
That's true, but the view in general is that I would argue that successful men don't really have time to play something as trivial as video games. Maybe,
but I think you can.
Like, again, how is it any different to any other form of entertainment? Even movies.
It just
books.
like, again, I made this point before, but I feel like, let's say you're CEO of a company and you don't have enough time to see your partner and your kids.
Yeah.
And you come home and you've only got, maybe a few hours, and you want to spend it with them, and they want to watch a movie. You can sit through and do that. Watch it together as a family, or you can play video games by yourself. I think if you're looking at it like that, maybe not.
That is true.
But on that journey back, if you're getting on the train back or something, you're probably still playing games on your phone.
Yeah.
So you're still gaming.
I guess that's what you just said. That's where being able to prioritize and being that responsible, sensible adult, and knowing what sort of...
It's managing your time, right?
Yeah, what's better to do at this specific moment in time.
Like, what I would do is shun my kids and play the video game. That's what I would do. Video games are important to me more than my kids.
That's true.
I mean, I don't have any kids, just so you're listening, but,
Yeah, this is just our opinion.
My opinion is kids are not valuable.
That's not true.
In my opinion, it is. Yeah, far less. I'd rather play a video game any day than look after a child.
Fair enough. All right, so to sort of talk about it from a different angle, what do you think would need to happen so that video games as a whole is viewed different by a society? So it's not viewed as a waste of time or as something that you shouldn't do, or as something that is only for kids, teenagers, and unemployed people. Well, we know that that's not the case, especially nowadays with just sort of the advancement of technologies and just the variety of video games that there are, and the variety.
So what will it take for society's perception to change?
What do you think needs to happen for the general view of it around it? What do you think needs to happen? So the view changes.
I think people need to die for that to happen. Genuinely.
Why?
Because when I say, I'll specify. I say people need to die. Old people need to die. And as they die, the younger people like us who are growing up with video games are going to have different attitudes towards it, and then it'll become normal. Eventually that will happen. Like, we've already got friends. We've got friends who, they're 40 years old, or in their late 30s, and they've got kids, and they're playing video games, and they think video games are fucking sick. They're playing the latest Assassin's... Like, you and I both know people like that, right? Yeah. When they get 70 or 80, they're never going to stop playing, right? And eventually that will be society. Like, I bet 100 years ago there were people going, or I don't know, depending on how long the TV is, right? There would be people going, oh, TV's for children. Oh, you should read books. And before books, they were like, you shouldn't read books. You should be going to church. And before church, they were like, you shouldn't go to church. You should be praying to that rock. Yeah. And it's like, as society, like, we come from that generation. Like, when we see kids today, like, if I see a kid, like a 2-year-old, and they're on an iPad, my first instinct is to go, fucking hell, man. They're only 2. Give them a break. They shouldn't be on iPads at that age. When that 2-year-old grows up and they're our age, or they have their own kids when they're like 40s, they're not going to have that same thing. They're going to be like, I've been using iPads since I was in the womb, and I don't know how they got it in there, but like I'm fine, right? Yeah. So their attitude's going to change. So I think for society's opinion to change, the older generations will die. And I'm not wishing death on them. I'm just saying that's what it's going to take.
Don't you think that there is a more peaceful approach?
It is peaceful. I'm not talking about murdering these people. I'm talking about dying in their sleep as they get old.
What I mean,
it will correct itself. That's what I'm saying.
But what I meant by peaceful is that
I'm not killing these people. I'm saying they're going to die of old age, and then over time, society will get better.
But I mean, what I meant when video games, even though they already are there, when they start transitioning more into mainstream, meaning that you you get more movies based on video games. It's more talked about in the TV in general, even in your like your standard like morning shows and stuff like that. Don't you think that if that happened more or more often, that would start changing the view of society as a whole?
Yeah, it definitely would,
because it would be more just more like you would be more surrounded by it.
Absolutely. But I also still think that can't happen until those hosts are people who've grown up in video games. Like, you'll know, it's not as long as you've got Piers Morgan or someone who's quite conservative when it comes to their views. Like, they're never going to like gamers are going to be the only ones who are going to champion gaming, right? So you're going to need people who've been born and raised up on video games to enter every industry, and it's happening more often now. It's happening.
Why would you say that is the case? Like, why if we bring up that example that you just said, Piers Morgan, why would you say that someone like him is able to appreciate movies, even the new digital movies that have special effects, digital effects, and everything, and that for example, he's able to appreciate something like that form of art, and not something like
I'll say one thing. To be first of all, I actually don't know Piers Morgan's view on games. I don't know whether he
I know that you just use them as an example.
As an example, and I'm just thinking because like when you watch one of those clickbaity titles on YouTube, Good Morning Britain, transgender dog helps diabetes or something, and then it's like you're like, what? Oh, what watch that? And then he's always got some opinion on it. Say if you are a transgender dog, I do respect you. But yeah, just. I think he for the sake of getting views, you're going to have a tough stance, and if your personal experience is I don't like video games, you're going to say on that big platform video games childish, even if you're just poking fun at it. Whereas if you are a big gamer, you're going to go video games are great, and if you don't play, your perception is going to be changed. I think that's true with anything. You're only going to champion your experiences. Like there's no, like if I didn't play video games, there's no way I'd be saying those are great for everyone. I'd be like, oh, who cares? They're childish. Like I'd be belittling them. But it's because they're part of my life that I.
Would you say that even though you wouldn't have played it, or would you say that just based on the fact that you just heard someone your age saying that this is a shit form of entertainment?
Well, look, what is it? TikTok's a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
I've begrudgingly started doing TikTok videos because I don't want to be left behind, but my first initial thing was it's for kids, it's fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And it is for kids and it is stupid, but it's once you've used it and you end up getting used to it and you end up enjoying it, then you end up championing it. I think it's just natural. I think unless you like it, you're not gonna go out your way to champion it. I just think that's the case.
It's true, but
that's just my opinion.
I know. I know, but that's why I wanted to have that discussion, because, like I said, I think.
Do you think, for example, someone would champion video games even if they've never played a video game in their life?
If they're able to appreciate, like, even if they didn't play the video game, if they're able to talk to someone who made the video game, or if they are able to talk to someone who plays video games, or even if there is a movie that's made based on that video game, I think you would be able to appreciate it somewhat.
I mean,
it at least it would make that initial spark of okay, maybe there's something different about it. Maybe it isn't only for people who have nothing else going on for them.
I'll tell you what annoys me though is like sometimes like this has happened quite a lot, and I think Piers Morgan has actually said this, and it's like they were talking about, do violent video games encourage violence in society?
Yeah.
Like, if you play a violent
video game... That's a hot topic every now and again.
It's basically whenever GTA comes out, right?
Yeah.
Whenever the new GTA comes in, it always comes back in the news, do violent video games encourage violence? And my personal opinion is no, they don't. I haven't done the studies and stuff, but I know for a fact, if it really did, if GTA was responsible, like every time GTA was released, fucking death rates and murders probably jump up, right? But
I
they
agree
don't.
with it.
If anything, they probably go down because everyone who's a gangster probably wants to play GTA and is not robbing and killing people, right? But every time they have that news, they always go, on the panel we've got left wing, we've got right wing conservative Christian talking about how video games are bad, and then they've always got the newscaster or the news anchor going, now what do you think? And they're always asking questions, and it annoys me because you can tell that the person on the news panel has never played a video game in their life and is not calling them out on this stupid debate. And I feel like if they got somebody, it's a bit like you would never dream on having, like with movies, we've categorized it. You would never have, like whenever movies are talked about on the news or anything else, they've always got a reviewer, whether it's Mark Commode or someone else. They've always got some seasoned veteran who knows what they're talking about, and they've watched thousands of movies doing it. You never get that with video games, at least in mainstream media. Like maybe you get it on YouTube, but you wouldn't get it on mainstream. You never get like, oh, this person is a seasoned gamer and they're the ones giving their opinion on how video games affect society. It's always just Joe Blogs who doesn't know shit about this subject.
Yeah, that is true, unfortunately.
And that really annoys me, because I'm thinking, well, you're not giving this medium the respect it deserves.
Yeah.
And that will change with time. And again, it started off with YouTube. I don't listen. Like you and I, if we watch video game channels like Let's Plays, whatever. Yeah. You don't watch a channel unless the person running the channel knows what they're talking about. Yeah. Guy or girl or otherwise. But it just hasn't translated to mainstream media.
That is true.
And that will happen with time, because what they'll do is they'll probably realise, we've realised this is a huge market. The video game market is like what generates more money than the movie industry and the TV industry does combined. Yeah. Right. Like the GTA, I don't know what billion it grossed. Like what's the movie that's grossed the most currently? Is it the Avengers?
Well, the most
recent
Avengers.
Endgame.
2.7 billion.
2.7 billion. Like I think GTA 5 did 3-4 times that.
Yeah, in 24 hours.
In 24 hours. So it's stupid. Yeah. So when you put it like that, it's kind of go, mate, trust me, video games, they're a much bigger industry, right? It's still just overcoming that hurdle. I do genuinely think it will happen with time as they grow older. I don't know if there's a way to expedite that or make it happen faster.
I think maybe, like I said previously, maybe the only way for it to
if you have kids, are you gonna raise your kids with, if you have kids with those sort of biases? Are you gonna be like, right, no, you should never play it? I was raised.
I'm a gamer myself, so I definitely this is just another form of entertainment essentially, and it, like I said, it teaches you a lot of things that
I was raised in a house where video games were looked as stupid. Like if you play video games, you're stupid. And I remember my dad got me a PlayStation just because. He was like, it can't be that much harm, but my mum was very much against it. Yeah.
I am aware that sort of our parents' generation views it like that. Yeah. And I guess some of them have sort of come around and changed their opinion, but I know that opinion sort of still prevails. And I am just hopeful that it will start changing when... Maybe it will happen faster if you have more movies based on video games coming out, and therefore when you promote a movie, you talk about a video game that it's based on as well, and things like that. Just sort of, I don't know. I would argue that my parents or your parents are more likely to sort of watch a movie and get sort of some sort of knowledge or information from the promotion of that movie, rather than, let's check this video game out, because that most likely won't happen. Yeah. And as also as a medium in general, I think it's just a great way to let off some steam after you have a long day at work. Yeah. Even when you brought up GTA, I know it's silly and it might sound silly to some people, but just sort of when you come back from work, you had a hard day at work or something, you just play that, you just roam around and it's
get a helicopter or whatever.
Yeah, it's just a cool way to sort of to let off some steam, and I do not think that being successful and still being able to play video games and enjoy and appreciate that form of art are mutually exclusive. I do think that
video games teach you, man. They teach you to be resilient as well. The amount of video games if you can't get past this level, you don't get to enjoy the rest of the video game. It's closed off to you. Like I think was it Daro Breen? He likened it to like a book. He goes, you're never reading a book, and if you can't understand a chapter or skip over it, the book doesn't just close and go. It goes, no more book for you. You have to go back and reread that chapter. You're like, what the hell, book? I'm just gonna read it. I'm just gonna slightly skim it and only take bits. A video game does that to you. It goes, you died. You can't beat the boss. If you can't beat these little ancillary NPC characters, like there's no way. Like a video game punishes you, man. And then like there's so many video games that are based on the play, die, repeat, like the rinse repeat thing. And like the amount of game, like Limbo, a fantastic game. It just you can play it on your phone, on your iPad, on your computer. You can't play that game without dying multiple times, and because it just brings out new things, and you go, I've learned from that, and then you try it again, you try a different way, and you again, and you trains you. Yeah. Like no other medium trains you to be resilient, do that. And I do think video gamers tend to be, as a result, because that's the same with every game, tend to be more determined, and they won't give up things quite so easily.
That's true.
They'll kind of just go, you know what, no, I'm going to see this through to the end. Yeah. Because rather than just try it once or twice and be like, no.
It can teach you discipline as well.
It does, like 100%.
That. Yeah.
If you want 100% a game, you're going to have to fucking
That's why I said that's why I said that sort of being a responsible, fully grown adult and still being able to enjoy a form of entertainment such as video games. Like I said, I don't think these two are mutually exclusive, because you can learn different things from it. Yeah. You can let off some steam doing that. Yeah. I think just the difference is, like you said, like if you spent the whole day watching TV, you'd be like, lazy day. Yeah. And it's just a stigma. But I think part of that comes from, I don't think yet. I think they will be, but I don't think yet. I just don't think video games, they're not seen as like, put this in quotation marks, but I don't think they're not sexy. Okay. Like, you know, if your partner comes around and you're like, cool, you know what, I'm gonna cook a nice meal for you and we're gonna enjoy it, and then we're just gonna sit down and watch a movie together, like it's a romantic night in. Yeah. Just you and me, no one else. Like, they're just not romantic. They're not sexy. They're not like, we're gonna invite you around for dinner, have a candlelit dinner, then we're gonna just sit down and I'm gonna play video games and you're gonna watch. You know, it's not yet. I don't know, and I don't know if that's just the way it is as a medium, but it's not. It's maybe not smooth. It's not in terms of that. I don't know if that, like, if you look at it from this aspect, I don't know if that's necessarily going to change. No, because it really depends on the type of sort of audience that the game is targeted towards. But I would argue that you don't have many experiences like that. As in, like many video games like that, where you are able to.
They energize you though. They certainly energize. Like, you know, I fall asleep watching TV all the time. You know. Yeah. On the couch, I'm just watching it. I just get bored and I just fall asleep.
Because you have to be more attentive when you do it, because it's something that you control. When you watch a movie, you don't necessarily control it. You just sort of put it on in a background and you just blankly stare at it. And if you're invested, you're invested. If you're not, then you just sort of
I've never fallen asleep playing a video game ever.
Yeah, that is true. But then it's just another form of entertainment. Even if in the future they don't necessarily start being targeted more towards shared experiences. Maybe they will just be sort of a different form of entertainment, and then if you want to have a romantic night in, as an example, you will stick with that movie, or you will stick with, I don't know, going to a theater or something like that. But
I think it definitely helps deal with frustration though. Like if you're, like you said, if you want to let off steam, if you're upset or whatever, playing a good video game can definitely be more therapeutic, because you feel like you're actually doing something rather than just watching TV.
That is true. I agree. Right. Thank you, Adam. Thank you for this conversation and this discussion. Thank you guys for listening. How can people find you if they wanted to find you on the internet?
At the moment, you can find me at my house, and I'm nowhere else. You can find me obviously online, just Adam Coumas. Find me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok.
Thank you guys for listening. I'll talk to you next week. See ya. Bye.
See ya. Bye.